What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where we talk about all the adaptations from comic books into movies and streaming shows. It is our 200th episode, and I am super excited because I get to talk about Masters of the Universe Revolution with my two good buddies right here. My co-host of the most, Brian. Are you excited about talking about Masters of the Universe?
I have my most appropriate t-shirt here, probably.
Oh my God, that is awesome. Love it. I love Transformers t-shirts. I'm rocking a Superman shirt for those that are listening on the podcast. And speaking of podcasts, right over there, that sexy boy over there rocking his I Am Knuff shirt. Mike.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel the power right now.
Nice.
I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome, awesome. Mike is from Pop Culture Man Children. At the end of the show, I want him to give us a little detail about it so you guys know where to check it out. I love that show. I've been on it multiple times. But let's just jump right into this. So let's go and do a little retrospective on Masters of the Universe Revelation. So that show was pretty controversial when it came out on Netflix, when Kevin Smith, released that show. In hindsight, do you guys still think fondly of that show, or do you, have any critiques about it? Mike, what about you? What do you think about that?
Well, you and I spoke about it on my podcast, and right. I like that show a lot. I love that show. I think it's the second best Masters of the Universe narrative, second only to She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Hell yeah. And we have a little reference to that potentially in this show.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into spoilers just yet. But, Brian, what about you? How do you feel about Masters of the Universe Revelation?
I liked it a lot. I think I don't remember the problem. I might have had a few minor problems. One of them wasn't the focus on Teela. I can say that. But I think by the end of it, it stuck the landing. It was good. It was kind of, I think we kind of talked about how we wanted other properties to kind of do something similar, like kind of dive in, mix up the, redo the lore and all that, make it a little more modern, I guess. And that's it.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like with Masters of the Universe Revolution, it seems like they've kind of like learned a few things from the first series and they've improved upon it. It feels even more like an old school He-Man episode, and any kind of thing that sort of bothered me in the first series, it's not there this time around. Like this one I think is even better. This is like the Empire Strikes Back of Netflix He-Man cartoons, But I didn't really have problems like the stupid Teela, oh my God, we're focusing on women now thing, or like the women have power. Yeah, that didn't bother me either.
No.
But
I have
go ahead.
I love Revolution. I have one major gripe with it that I don't think I could put on the producers, which is it tells too big a story for the amount of episodes it's given. I wonder if Netflix lost faith because it's 5 episodes. I thought it was going to be half a season, and then the narrative ended, and I was like, oh shit, that's it. And I've rewatched most of it a second time, and the pace is like breakneck speed, and there's no room for things to like. I feel like it's plot, very little character, and it's because there's no room to breathe. And I think that's a shame because if it had been 10 episodes, this same story, I think it would have been even better.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Brian, do you have that same gripe or what?
Yeah, I do kind of wish it was a little bit longer, I guess. I feel like in the first in Revelation, there was a lot, like you had these little moments with like the side characters, but here they really stuck to that main cast and that's it.
Yeah.
And like maybe Andra's like the only side character that gets any kind of like minor arc. But all the other side hero characters, like the toys you grew up playing with, they're really just there to punch things. They probably don't even have lines.
Yeah. It's funny about the Andra part because she had a much bigger part in Revelation. And in this, it almost feels like with Jar Jar from going from like episode 1 to episode 2, where they're like, oh my God, the fans didn't like this, so we're going to reduce it. but I still think she has some good moments in this.
She got Kelly Marie Tran.
Oh my God. Yeah, but it's sad but true though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's stuck around though. I mean, she's the same voice actress.
That is true. That is true. And, so we're 5 minutes in. We've already made a Last Jedi reference, Mike. So I'm very proud of you. So, Brian, you just mentioned the voice cast. I noticed there's a couple of different voices, right? So Brian, who's changed?
Two. Okay, so Tila is no longer Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Right.
It's Melissa Benoist, who was Supergirl. And the Queen Marlena, is not Alicia Silverstone. It's Gates McFadden from Star Trek: Next Generation.
Yeah. I think she does a fantastic job in it. Mike, what did you think of the change from Sarah Michelle Gellar to Melissa Benoist?
I like Melissa Benoist. I do prefer Sarah Michelle Gellar, but maybe it's just because I really, their voices are very different.
Yes.
So I liked her performance in the first season. I do wonder why some people didn't come back. Mm-hmm. Although in terms of voice cast, I have to say the MVP is again Evelyn.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Shit, I can't. Lena Headey, right?
Yeah.
She is really good in this too, and she has a small little arc as well. That's a character that definitely like evolves from the original cartoon and like even from the first series too.
Right. She's chaotic good now.
Yeah. They definitely actually talk about her alignment at the very end of this show.
Yeah.
But in the new cast, because there are people that join the show as well, you have some new characters and voices. There's a big one that we're going to get to in a second, but besides Keldor, who else is new to this show? Do you remember, Brian?
Oh my God, who else is new?
John Delancey.
Okay, John Delancey is I can't remember the dragon's name.
A lot of Star Trek.
Exactly. I was thinking about that because, like, I think that Masters of the Universe is owned by Paramount, and so like Gates McFadden is the Queen, and then Q is the dragon, right? And Paramount, I think, owns Hasbro, and Hasbro has My Little Pony, and there's a creature on My Little Pony called Discord. And John Delancey is Discord. Were you getting some Discord vibes from this, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, they're both dragons, basically.
Yeah. And he kind of had the same kind of attitude, too.
Yeah. Can I tell you something that occurred to me yesterday?
What's that?
And I don't want to skip ahead too much, but Keldor is basically the same person as Skeletor, right? That's a spoiler, okay?
Yeah.
And Skeletor is Mark Hamill, and Keldor is William Shatner. And I feel like Kevin Smith was aware of this because basically this one character is voiced by the star of Star Wars and the star of Star Trek. That can't be a coincidence.
No, and it's a fantastic choice too, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, he's so good. For a guy who's 90, he's so full of life. I mean, his performance is incredible.
Yeah,
and he's known for being kind of wooden on occasion. I thought he did a really great job in this show.
Yeah.
That blew my mind because you're right. He is 90 years old and he just has charisma. And like, what's amazing about it is he's kind of saying a few ridiculous things in this. He's like, "Oh, the magic of Eternias, the same thing against science, all that kind of shit." And you'd think that like a person would be embarrassed to say that stuff, especially if they're 90. But he's all in.
He's saying Skeletech.
Yeah.
And he has, he has no idea too. He's like, he just showed up and he was like, "Okay, I'll say this silly nonsense."
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah, but like he says it, but like it's got this charm to it. Like it's almost like better than some of his older Star Trek movies. I'm like, damn.
Well, you listen to the Star Trek animated series from the 70s, and it's like he's so wooden in that. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah. I haven't watched that, but like I even feel like Kirk, when you watch him on the original series, he's very like people think he's like this suave like playboy on the show, but he's much more like by the book, and like rigid than you'd think.
Yeah, he underplays and overplays. There's no middle ground. He either
okay.
As Kirk in the original series, I feel like he's going really, really low and then super bombastic.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was just saying, in terms of people, like you said, he sounded a lot more wooden in the Star Trek animated series back in the day. I think a lot of actors kind of struggle with changing to voice acting. Maybe they don't take it as seriously or something. But like I remember commenting on the MCU What If shows where they have all those stars return. That first season, a lot of those performances were terrible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, on this show, I feel like everyone that's on it, especially William Shatner, knows the assignment, and there isn't anyone that's lame on this. Like they give it their all. You got people from Game of Thrones, like Duncan and Evelyn, and then you have Star Trek people, and everyone is good.
Yeah.
So of course that brings up the other side of the coin, Mark Hamill. He's kind of doing a proto Joker voice for Skeletor once again. And Skeletor is just so fucking good in these shows, right?
Yeah. He does this incredible thing with his voice where it's like high like this, but then he goes, like he goes super low with it. It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. And he seems to be the only character that can kind of make pop culture references, or like maybe not pop culture references, but like modern, like he could say modern things. Like he calls Hordak a tool at one point, right? Yeah. He's so, I don't know. He's like the wittiest one on the show. Like, Brian, were you a fan this time around?
Of course, yeah. I mean, he's always great in pretty much everything he does. So.
Yeah. It was making me want to see the Joker again, like from the Timverse.
Yeah.
So
which we never will see ever again, unfortunately.
Yeah. No kidding. Never gonna get that Kevin Conroy. So Keldor, let's do a little backstory on Keldor so people know what the hell we're talking about. Mike, what other versions of Keldor have you seen?
Well, you've got Keldor from the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Netflix show, the one that's aimed more towards a younger audience, the CGI 3D show. And in that, it's very clear that Keldor is Skeletor, and he knows that Keldor's his uncle. So it's almost the same, but in this one, they kind of make it like a reveal that Keldor is Skeletor. But then you find out that Keldor really is Skeletor. And that Hordak. See, it's things like this where it feels like if it had a little more room to breathe, it would all make a little bit more sense.
I agree.
Yeah, they revealed that in the second episode. I mean, like, not that it was a reveal. Everyone that's a He-Man fan knows that already, but you're right. Letting it breathe would have been a little bit better, I think.
Yeah. Do you guys think that there are like kids of He-Man fans, like my daughters and stuff, watching this show and they don't know all the lore, and so like that is actually a big reveal for them?
Probably.
Not
my son. He hates He-Man.
Oh, for real? He doesn't like He-Man? I thought he likes big characters.
He likes Skeletor. He hates He-Man.
Oh, wow. I could kind of understand that. He-Man, I mean, especially in this, he makes like a lot of corny jokes in this, doesn't he?
I mean, going back to the 80s series, like he was really corny.
Yeah. And Adam always seemed really lame, and it's funny because he does seem a little lame in this as well, but he becomes like a much more likable, charismatic character by the end.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm guessing that's a permanent change too. Well, no spoiler alert there, but
oh yeah, the way that he is at the very end, because he looks like the live action He-Man.
Yeah,
right?
I always thought it was weird to have the Prince Adam and He-Man kind of dynamic there, because it's kind of like the Incredible Hulk in a way, But
absolutely.
it's almost like an unearned sort of change like that. It's like, and I think it makes more sense to have them kind of combined in a way.
Yeah. You're right with your Incredible Hulk comparison, but the thing that I always think of with He-Man is like Shazam, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's better. Yeah.
With the lightning, and he becomes like a better version of himself. Mike, did you have a problem with like the two being different people in the original, or no?
Well, in the original, I mean, I think that's the sort of like original sin that the last series deals with, Revelation. You know, like how does everyone know except his best friend that he is the same? So, you know, and remember in Revelation, the father doesn't know, the mother does, but the father doesn't. So I like that it's in the world of Revolution, like everyone kind of know it's like Iron Man. Everybody knows he's He-Man and Prince Adam. So I'm kind of fine with that because it really just feels like he gets stronger. It doesn't feel like he changes that much. He doesn't change his personality. He just gets bulkier. Like he's still
that's the thing. The original cartoon, Adam was this exact same size as He-Man. He just really was like a costume and hair change, sort of. It barely. But
right.
It's so much more noticeable, and I think maybe that's why I noticed it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like really big. I remember that like when they were talking about He-Man on like the Toys That Made Us, and I think on other documentaries I've seen, they talk about how like the original inspiration is Conan, and that like, you know, there's all this like sort of like Frank Frazetta, I mean, literally maybe Frank Frazetta art as like concept art for He-Man. And on this show, he is like, Brian, you made this Hulk comparison. He is like Hulk size when he's He-Man. He's actually like more trim, right? When he becomes this new version at the end.
I think so. Yeah, it's almost like Professor Hulk, sort of. You know, that's probably why I said Hulk over Shazam.
No. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so he kind of looks more like the Dolph Lundgren He-Man by the very end of the show.
He's got the haircut of the Dolph Lundgren He-Man as well.
Yeah. Do you think, like, I want to hear from both of you guys. Do you guys think, like, that they kind of held the live action movie in high regard and, like, kind of transitioning to that? Like, do you think that that's the way to go, to where it's like, oh, well, this is kind of like the next stage because it's the live action movie? What do you guys think of that?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of that movie. I love that movie. I was giddy every time I saw a little reference to it in this show.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else they can really do with it. I feel like they kind of covered as much as they could, really, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
unless they come to Earth, which I don't think is a good idea.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like for a long time, the film was considered this huge failure. But with the fans, especially young fans at the time, as we got older, we loved the film. So I feel like it has, now that we have Gwildor, it has taken all the things that we really like from the movie and incorporated that into the universe of the show. So there's not really much else, you know, that we could do. Although I gotta say, they almost canonized the movie, because Man-at-Arms says to Gwildor, "I was the Man-at-Arms when you and I traveled across the universe."
Exactly.
And you saw the Cadillac in the background?
Wait.
No, what?
Yeah, no. When they go to Gwildor, you see like half the car in the background of one of those shots, just as he's saying that.
Get the fuck out of here!
Yep,
I didn't see that.
Oh my God, Lubick! Nobody takes pot shots at Lubick.
Yeah. Oh my God! Wow, that's crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah, that movie had such an impact on me as a kid. I mean, I think that's why we're talking about this right now. And when he made that reference, I thought that was like the coolest thing. He's like, "Oh, we traveled across the universe." There's
I love that his.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
No, you.
The design of Gwildor and the design of Gwildor's home is exactly from the movie, and I love that.
Right. I was going to say that there's like a few references to the movie, because there's that. Like he says a couple of lines of dialogue that kind of mirror the movie too.
Yeah.
He kind of trash talks magic, and what's amazing, Brian, right, is that like you couldn't have Orko in the live action movie because it'd be too difficult to have Orko, and now they kind of like rectify that. They're like, "Oh, we've got Orko and fucking
right."
Why can't I just think of his name?
Gwildor.
Yeah. Brian, I was going to ask you, who's the voice actor for him?
I don't think it's anyone that famous. His name is Ted Biaselli, and he's more known for being a producer than a voice actor. So
Okay.
I don't know anything about how that happened.
Who do you guys? Either of you guys remember the name of the actor that plays him?
Billy Barty.
Billy Barty. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was thinking, it's like, is it Billy Batty or something? I couldn't remember. Roy Batty from Blade Runner. So, do you feel like maybe because it's a producer, it's like a guy that could just do a really good Wildor impersonation?
Yeah, maybe, because I think it sounds like him.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So, why don't we go ahead and just dive into a few of the plot points, because there's some major moments on this show. I had this ticker up before where it says King Randor's death. Brian, it looks like you were just looking at the cast. Who plays the dad? Is it the guy that was Batman on the Harley Quinn show?
Yeah, it's D. Bradley Baker. Yes, he's King Randor. He's returning from the first years. And just to end off that Masters of the Universe movie connection there, Motherboard is Meg Foster, who was Evelyn in that movie.
That's right. I totally forgot to mention that too. Yes.
Perfect. Yes. And I gotta say, they make Hordak's ship looks like the way Grayskull looks in the movie.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Like with the long corridor up to the throne.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a really good point. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, we got to do all the Hordak stuff too. I don't even think I made a ticker for Hordak, but we'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about the dad dying. So, Diedrich Bader, you said, Brian, is the dad?
No, D. Bradley Baker. I often confuse those names though.
Oh, okay. So what's?
No, you're right. It is Diedrich Bader. So I'm wrong.
Boom. All right, there we go. So what did you think about that whole arc of like the dad kind of becoming more heroic and then he died? Like, what did you think of that?
I think it was a funny turnaround for that. He didn't tell me he was dying when He-Man didn't tell me he was He-Man.
Oh, that's a good point. I got your back. Yeah. We can kind of hop into spoilers. Did either of you guys kind of tear up when the dad showed up at the end?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
When he got his grand reward.
Yes. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Do you think that Preternia is just for the heroes, and that like when a regular person dies, they just go to like limbo or something?
I don't know. Kevin Smith famously made Dogma, and he was raised as a Catholic. And I feel like you see that come out because you got Preternia and Subternia, but often the characters will call them heaven and hell.
Yes.
So it's sort of not clear to me what exactly these things really are, because you can just walk into Subternia. Which is like, you can't just walk into hell. Unless you go to the American South, am I right?
Oh, that's where I live. I'm there now. Yeah. No.
Canceled.
Oh, you're right. By the two Texans that watch this. No, they actually literally go into fucking Subternia, like you said, like the first scene, I think, right?
Yeah.
They're there. And they fight. That's Tony Todd again, right? As Scareglow. Yeah, or Scareglow. Yeah. Brian, don't you kind of think that like Preternia is like Valhalla? Like
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, it's very much like Valhalla.
Yeah.
There's all these dudes just hanging out. I mean,
yeah, like Fisto and what was the black heroes? Thank you. See, that's why I love talking to both y'all, because like you guys are sharp. You're on.
Although I honestly don't remember them dying. I guess they died in the end of the first one. I mean,
come on, dudes.
I honestly didn't remember.
There's this amazing part where like Fisto is like, I really want to fist him. He says that, and then like a scene later, Skeletor's minions kill him, and then Skeletor like takes their souls from their bodies or whatever, and he's like, they're not going anywhere, right? But anyway, I was gonna say the dad dies, and then there's this whole thing about, well, does Adam become king as Adam, or does he become king as He-Man? And there's this quote about a man shouldn't have, or a king shouldn't have the scepter
and the
sword, right? Did that feel authentic to you guys, or did that kind of feel like, well, we need to have this like plot point to move everything?
Well, like I was saying before, it feels rushed. Like if we could have sat with that for a little bit longer, I feel like it would have had a great impact. But it's just sort of like King dies, you've got to choose whether to do it, and then here's Keldor, and then now Keldor's the king. It's just like boom, boom, boom. There's no as statuses change in the narrative, there's no characters reacting to those status change. It's just also, it's just plot, point. In one episode, so much can change, and it's just like it makes your head spin. It's so fast.
Yeah, his death is like really like quick. I mean, it's out of the blue. No one really expects it. Go ahead.
He dies from some disease. They go like, there's a disease. Like what? Like there's some drop threads that I'm interested in.
Yeah, they kind of sped over that. I would say. You know, I actually do like the choice of that. You know, the sword and scepter. I mean, I think that's a good plot point to go over there. But like Mike said, it's totally rushed over. It's like Keldor shows up at the end of it, the first episode or whatever, and then he's king the next episode already.
Oh yes, that is very quick,
so fast.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it must be that the first series got a lot of negative backlash, and maybe that affected the viewership, and so they didn't have as much confidence this time around. But they still had like double the ambition, but maybe not as much opportunity, and so there. It's sort of like there's major themes that carry over through each of the episodes, but like each theme, that, like you said, Mike, it's like at a breakneck speed. Like one theme, because of the father's death, is that Tila is like super focused on bringing back Praeternia. And I say theme because it's the idea of like you're literally able to bring the afterlife back. And I think that's, have either of you guys ever seen that in a movie where it's like, oh, heaven is gone, we're going to remake heaven? Have you guys ever seen that?
No, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
No.
I think that like, I think that what happened is like, because when you watch the first season is like ridiculous. Like Skeletor like literally controls creation. Evelyn controls creation. She destroys heaven essentially. Like it goes so outside of the box in the first season.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that like this was a really great example of something where it's like, hey, we did this. How can we follow up with this? Like it's like a cool evolution of the story, I think.
Yeah, because you're dealing with some of the fallout in the beginning of this one. It feels to me like the writers broke the story for season 2 and had it on their big blackboard of this, that, and then Netflix was like, hey guys, we're gonna do an order of 5 this time instead of 10. And they were like, oh shit. Do we remove things? Do we try to truncate it? Do we try to do it all? And I think instead of maybe removing some bigger elements, because really, like, Hordak should be like a huge deal, and him coming to Eternia and like basically trying to take it over is like, it happened so fast. You think about the way they handled that same storyline in She-Ra, it was like seasons building up to it.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because so much of this stuff is based upon your pre-existing knowledge, right? Because like the Hordak thing in this show, you're right, it's so quick that it doesn't actually have as much impact. It's just kind of like, oh, here's another bad guy. But for us, we're like, oh shit, that's Hordak, and that's Hordak who kidnapped She-Ra and Adora, right? And that's Hordak that like runs the Horde, and Skeletor's just a minion of him. You know, like that's a big deal for us. Oh, it's Keith David's voice. That's really fucking hot for me. You know, but it's not that big a deal in this because it's just so like boom, boom, boom. You know, like Brian, you didn't watch She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, right?
I didn't finish it. No.
Okay. Did you like what you watched?
Yeah, I did. I don't know why. I think we all watched it as a family, and my son just gets tired of things, and we just stopped for whatever reason, thinking we were going to continue.
Gotcha. That show kind of breaks reality too. It gets like real crazy, and like they literally control reality at one point. From what both of you guys saw, because Hordak is a big part of the show, did you like Keith David's version of Hordak versus that version?
I mean, he's a perfect voice for Hordak. I mean, it's such incredible casting.
Yeah.
But again, I wish I knew more of what Hordak's like plan was or what he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah,
maybe they didn't need Motherboard. Maybe like remove Motherboard and have Hordak do more of that stuff.
Yeah. Brian, what about you? What'd you think of Hordak?
I love Keith David and anything. I think he makes a great villainous voice. I actually got vibes of a show that I felt was kind of similar to She-Ra, probably with Voltron, and with I can't remember the king's name from Voltron right now, but you know what I mean? Like basically that was their whole idea. Is like they were sending the fleet across the world and or the universe and just conquering it. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God, that fucking Voltron cartoon was so good. You're talking about the Netflix version, right?
One, yes.
Oh, I forgot that. I need to go back and rewatch that. I'm like rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender right now, and I'm loving it. But that fucking Voltron was so good too. Well,
Can I just say one thing though?
Please.
The Hordak Skeletor fight is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny because Skeletor. There's so many different versions of Skeletor, but like in this, he's like a fucking He-Man unto himself, right? He's like super strong. He's got like jets in his feet at one point. You know, Keith David like just beats his ass, but then he gets back. I was gonna say that like Hordak, it's funny because they really are like channeling the old cartoon too. Because like he snorts a couple of times in this, right?
Yeah, he does.
And he turns into a fucking rocket too at one point.
Yeah.
Were you guys kind of? So we are talking spoilers and stuff. Did you guys expect him to get killed, or like how did that go? Was that a shocker to you?
Yeah, I was shocked. Yeah, I didn't expect. I mean, He-Man didn't even fight Hordak at all, which I feel like you have to have the hero fight the villain, even though technically that's not really how it goes because he's the She-Ra villain, but yeah, it was a little bit of a shock. And also I felt it was almost like, a rehash of the Skeletor arc from Revelation where it's like, oh, he's good for a second, but he's bad again. And, but he wasn't teaming up with He-Man, he was teaming with Hordak, and he betrays him, sort of.
Yeah, that's good. What I liked about this version was that he doesn't like team up with He-Man to defeat Hordak. It's more like he's doing it for his own revenge, basically. Right. He's like, you did this to me. And so I have this one tag that I saved for the end, but I think this is a good transition point. We can go to the other points later. But like the final scene, which is like, I don't think it's a post-credit scene. I think it's before the credits. It's the very last scene that we see. It's basically like this female warrior who's got a Hordak costume on, and she's talking about how like that Hordak that's hurt is going to heal because of Hordak Prime. And then she takes off the helmet. Now, everyone is assuming that is Adora, right?
Right. Yeah. She's credited as Despara, who I believe in the one version of the comics, that's what Hordak renames Adora.
Okay.
So we basically know it is She-Ra, but they don't show her face, and do they have the rights? Like for a long time, whenever Kevin Smith was asked, he'd say, it would be cool, but we don't have the rights. And famously, DreamWorks never got the rights for He-Man. That's why He-Man never appeared in Princesses of Power. But also, is Netflix going to go? Is Netflix going to say, here's more episodes? Is this going to be a cliffhanger that doesn't go anywhere?
I hope not. Netflix has done that way too many times for me.
Yeah.
Netflix feels like it's 2 or 3 seasons, and unless you're Stranger Things, you get either 2 or 3 seasons, and then you're done forever.
Yeah,
that's a Netflix way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you guys know anything about like how successful this show has been, or anything like that?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what are the metrics? I mean, that's the problem with streaming in general. How do we know what anything is? Like, I don't know. Like, I like it.
As far as I know, I believe Netflix is starting to release metrics on some kind of limited basis.
Yeah.
So I don't remember where to see that. I don't know how often it comes out, but they have started to do it in recent memory. I had something else to say and I forgot it too. Damn it.
We're talking about like the She-Ra thing.
Yes, this is what I was going to say. Generally when we're covering these shows, I kind of just look up other stuff. just to kind of get other opinions, see if anything I missed or whatever, just fact checking all that. There's like nothing out there about this show. It's very hard to find things about this show written. I mean, you see a couple little videos here and there, but particularly Revolution, there's nothing out there yet. I mean, I know it's very new, but I expected to see something somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Everything is from when the trailer came out, basically.
Right. What were you gonna say, Mike?
Sadly, I feel like there's a lot of toxicity in the Masters of the Universe fandom, and the whole series in general, I think, never bounced back from the fact that the first episode of Revelation, He-Man dies, and then we've got a female protagonist, and some guys are like, I can't. and from then on, they hate Kevin Smith, they hate He-Man, and nothing you do matters. I think it's sad. I think, you know, a big part of the fan base just walked away before, you know, anything could happen.
Yeah, I agree. And like, were the fans like that guy Porkins from A New Hope, like blowing up?
Yeah,
when that happened, like yeah. I think you're totally right. And Brian, you know, you bring up a good point too, because as I keep releasing these things and like looking up thumbnails and shit, a lot of times it makes me think about, well, what have I seen like us on Twitter? And I haven't seen anyone talking about Echo, like, which we just covered, right? I don't think I've seen like a tweet about this. And there's things in this. There are easy screenshots you could take from this and be like, oh my God, look at this moment. Or, oh, you know, William Shatner was so good. And there's nothing like that.
So speaking of screenshots, this whole time I went on mute a few times because I was trying to find the moment in the third episode where you see the Cadillac, and I have it, but I screenshotted it and it's black. So I guess Netflix is blocking screenshots.
Oh shit, that's crazy. Okay,
yeah.
So like you were on Netflix and you were gonna do that?
Wow.
Yeah, I have a screen up in another tab here. It's the 1320 mark in the third episode, but I can't share it because it's a black.
Netflix is the evil horde.
Yes, it seriously is. Yes.
$25 a month. God damn it.
Wait, is that much now?
Yeah, it's $25 a month now for Netflix.
Holy shit!
I don't think I'm paying that much.
Yeah, I thought I was paying like 12. I thought,
but I'm paying a lot. I don't know. Maybe me in particular is screwed.
I get
do you have the household sharing thing.
Maybe.
That's probably what it is. That adds like an extra $10. I think it's like 15 or 16, and then it's $10 more if you have somebody else have to sign in from somewhere else.
All right, yeah, I supply a lot of Netflix for people that I know.
Yeah, no, good. You should. But like, I'm wondering if like this show has the legs, you know, if it can stand on them. Mike, would this work in your mind, in your head canon, if like this somehow transitioned into Princesses of Power? That like, it's weird that she's wearing that costume and she takes off her helmet, but could you like in your head canon be like, oh, but then this is the next scene and it's Princesses of Power?
Interesting. That's a good question. I don't think so because their tones are so different.
Yeah.
And Princesses of Power did such an interesting job sort of like changing the lore. And, you know, and remembering that Grayskull is not a place, but it's a name of a team of heroes. You and I spoke about this before when we covered the He-Man shows, the two He-Man shows on Netflix. That what I think what's cool about this property is that it's not beholden to the sort of Marvelization of like everything has to be canon. I like that, kind of like what Warner Brothers is doing with DC now. It's kind of like, here's 5 versions, here's 5 versions of He-Man, 5 different versions of. I'm fine with that. You know, they're still working on. DreamWorks is working on a live action She-Ra series, which will have nothing to do with Princesses of Power or this He-Man or anything.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
I didn't know either.
Let me ask you this: you said that her name on the show was Despota or something like that.
Despara, like Despera.
Yeah.
Like
so
that.
Did it say the name of the actress? Like, it's not the same woman that did the voice of Adora on Princess of Power, right?
No, I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay, Yeah, it's funny because she kind of sounds more like Shadow Weaver from that show when she's talking.
Right,
she's
right.
Hordak is so hot with your stab wound, you know. But I loved Princesses of Power, and it's kind of like I don't want it to like just fade from memory. I kind of wish that they could sort of like take part of it and put it into this. And I also love that fucking other version of Masters of the Universe that you and I covered. That was so good. That
was cool too.
Yeah. Don't you feel like, this is a little side note, Mike, but like, don't you feel like they purposefully downplayed Ram Man because he's such a big part, or at least his legacy is in the other show?
Yeah, I agree. It becomes Ram Man.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's cool. That's what I think is so cool, that it's just these big, colorful characters, and you can sort of reconfigure them in all these different ways. Yeah. I mean, we haven't said it yet, but I think what we see in the end of Revolution is an idea that I believe comes from Princesses of Power, that there's Hordak, but in fact there's the Hordak Prime, who's the real person in charge.
Right.
I think She-Ra Princesses of Power, unless it was in a comic or something, She-Ra Princesses of Power did that, and now it seems like this show wants to do that if it gets to continue.
I totally agree. When she said Hordak Prime, I was like, oh shit, that's like a She-Ra thing. And I think Motherboard, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Motherboard is in She-Ra or He-Man, right?
I don't remember. Yeah.
I think she did pre-exist in something. I don't remember what.
She's like
here.
A big fucking bird at one point, right? Like she's like blasting the Grayskull shield, and she's like a big bird. She's kind of like a transformer. And it's funny. I mean, I love that you brought up that she's Meg Foster, because I totally forgot to mention that. But then she fucking gets Gwyneth Paltrow, doesn't she?
Wait,
right, like she's her head is in a fucking box.
What's in the box?
Right. It's her fucking severed
head.
Yeah,
that was brutal. Brutal.
Yeah. It's funny because like this kid show goes further than Seven, because Seven just implies it. They have her severed head in this, you know.
Well, I don't know if it's a kid show, because one of my favorite lines is, Evelyn is fighting with Teela, and she's trying to make Teela mad. And she says, you know, He-Man always liked me more. I'm the forbidden fruit that makes his loincloth lift.
Yes. That was a great fucking line.
I was like, oh shit.
Yes. And that
I'm sorry.
No, it gave me PTSD for her giving Skeletor a lap dance in that first season.
Yes.
Yeah. What were you gonna say? Do
you feel like there's a retcon with Teela? Because am I wrong? Was it not heavily implied that Tara and Teela were together in a same-sex relationship in the first one, and then in this season, everybody knows that He-Man and Teela love each other and belong together, and they should have always been together. And it's like, I don't remember that in season 1. I remember them being friends, and I remember it being implied that her and Tara were together. I don't know. It feels like I wonder, or I worry that it's one of the things like the Jar Jar thing of like, okay, let's walk it back. People are upset about it, so let's walk it back.
Right.
I think it was ambiguous with both relations in the first season, but I think they definitely walked it back after fan reaction, because you know the whole woke thing, and that was what killed it for some fans, I guess. So
right,
they definitely went back to a more traditional He-Man.
Right. Yeah. Which is sad, because like for these properties that, you know, it seems like their target audience is like, you know, adolescent boys, there is that where they kind of like take these concepts. They're like, oh, adolescent boys and their parents that wear red caps aren't going to like this. And, you know, but then they sort of like get their head. Oh, no.
I died.
Oh, my God. The red caps got Mike.
Oh, my God, guys.
We said the word woke, and, you know, that was it. We were getting shut down. But go woke, go broke. But I was going to say that they kind of get their hands slapped. It's kind of like Rise of Skywalker, where, you know, they do all these things in The Last Jedi, and then there's like this pullback.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Teela for a minute, right? Because I agree with Brian, where I think that like there really isn't any kind of romance in that first season at all. And then in this season, it's everyone's just like, whoa, when are these two gonna bone? Look, that's a male that's a male action figure, that's a female action figure. They're supposed to kiss, right?
Right.
So I feel like
I think it's a victim of the kind of the cramped runtime here. You know that they didn't have time to let it breathe, so they had to have lines like you just mentioned.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian. Like with that thought, right? Do you think that this would be much more satisfying if, like, instead of it being everyone saying, "Oh, we always knew," that like maybe they didn't have this romantic moment, but then all of a sudden they kind of realize it in that first episode, and then they kind of play upon it. Would that have been much more satisfying?
Yeah, I think it would have been. I like when things have time to breathe. I mean, I'm not faulting the show, but you know, it worked out in the end. I think the everything being condensed sort of works. But yes. I definitely I wouldn't have minded if this was 2 parts and 10 episodes again.
Fuck yeah. You know, it's funny. Tila goes through so many costume changes in this season. And I was thinking, like, what if you had some kind of sequence where, like, Adam doesn't realize how beautiful she is, or he doesn't realize he has romantic thoughts for her. And then while she's, like, changing into a costume, that's when he's like, oh.
He's like, William Shatner, he likes green women. He's like, oh, she's green now.
I was going to say, like, oh, Tila, you look like a snake now.
Yeah. Okay, so if we're going that route, she kind of was kind of hot as a snake, right?
Yeah. And another thing, too, is I really appreciated the callback to the original figure with that snake armor kind of thing that they really didn't touch upon before.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so can you guys explain something to me, too? Because I know that the show is essentially like a continuation of the original cartoon. I remember as a kid that they have all this shit with like snake people and crazy stuff. And I remember that Tila figure, but I don't remember that in the cartoon. There's nothing like that in the cartoon, right?
No. Tila, in the original Filmation cartoon, I feel like Tila's design is the most independent from the action figures that they were based on. Because the original Tila does have the sort of snake kind of like halo around her, and in the Filmation cartoon she doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Now the snake people though became towards the end of, there's only 1 season of He-Man actually. It's just got like 1 billion episodes. So towards the end of He-Man, the snake people came in as sort of like a way to kind of come up with a bunch of new bad guys.
Right. So, but it's not in the cartoon, or it is in the cartoon?
I don't remember, to be really honest with you.
Yeah.
I remember the toys, and I remember that it's in season 2 of that other show, the 3D one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they do have a lot of snake people in that, right? Okay, well, that's another thing. That's a really good transition right there, actually, because in this, they really play up the lore and kind of expand the lore. And, you know, I remember from that computer animated one, they talked about the idea of Havoc as a power. And that's a big deal in that one because Skeletor has that Havoc power. And then in this, so it's like there's Havoc, there's Ka, and then there's
Zor.
Zor, thank you so much. Thank you. And then I think they implied there's a 4th power too, or there's like 4 towers, right?
Yeah.
They do imply that at some point, but they don't go too much into it.
Yeah, but essentially, it's kind of like it reminds me of Dragonlance books, which that's a strange thing that like the 2 of you guys don't have that connection with me. Like we're usually on the same page, but with Dragonlance, like there's always this idea with the gods where there's evil, there's good, and then there's balance in the middle, and there's like a god for each one. That's very much, I got that vibe in this. And fucking Tila gets to like wield all of them.
Yeah. Tila was such an important character in the first season, Revelation. And I feel like she is, through most of this one, she's doing a side quest. And she, you know, like we've been saying before, like she doesn't get a chance to really like breathe because it's just like plot. Right.
And she's like doing stuff, but it's always at that kind of that backgroundy, like, oh, we're gonna have the battle, and then she's gonna be just moving her hands around.
Yeah.
And there's this one part that's actually really cool where she brings all the powers together. And I knew that like it was going to be too much for her. And I really liked how it would show like one costume, then it would go back to the current one.
Yeah.
The other. I really like that. But the whole time I'm watching that, I'm like, okay, this is basically just like, here's one figure of Teela. Here's another one. Here's another one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Brian, couldn't they essentially get like 4 Teela figures out of this one show?
Probably, yeah. And honestly, too, I often say this in most of the shows we watch. And this is a traditionally 2D animated, hand-drawn kind of deal where they can do things like that. But if this would have been a CGI show, you would have gotten one model in different colors.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Very good point. Yeah. Well, Brian, with that being said, like since this is 2D, this actually does have like good backgrounds and a good feeling for the world, right?
Totally does. Yeah, there's lots of like weird animal people in the background getting turned into cyborg people and stuff. So yeah.
Yes. Except there's always that one black dude, that bald black dude that always seems to get taken over by the virus in this. Like they always show that one dude with the blue eyes. I'm like, okay, I guess that guy really likes that virus. I had a really stupid joke when Adam makes or He-Man makes the connection between the sword and getting rid of that virus. I was like, wouldn't it have been funny if he had made that connection? He was like, oh, I'll just stab everyone and save them.
Well, that reminds me of a moment that I think is really funny, which is he gives the sword to Orko to go to Gwildor and have Gwildor make modify the sword so it can, beam the power out, whatever. And then Orko goes, by the power of Grayskull. They were like, no.
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny moment.
It was, yeah.
Gwildor was not Gwildor. Orko was so great in this, and then him and Gwildor kind of bickering with each other was so great too.
How great was Orko fending off the fucking horde? Like he was like single-handedly fighting off like Grizzlor and was it Mantis and was the other guy Whiplash? I don't remember.
Oh, so okay. There's one like lizard creature that like he has like suckers come out of his mouth. Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember who he was then.
Well, because Whiplash is the green one that has the rubbery tongue, right?
We saw him in the first season.
Tail, I mean. Yeah. He's a more primary one. I was going to ask you guys, because you guys know the figures way better than I do. So Beastman's like not in this at all, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't know why he was so good in season 1.
But okay, so then what's the fucking?
No, he's not. Oh, did he die?
I think he died.
Oh, we're gonna have to look that shit up.
I don't remember.
Okay, but let me ask you this: what's the fucking brown beast then that's in this?
Grizzlor.
I think. Yeah, he's a She-Ra villain.
Grizzlor.
Yeah.
Okay. That thing that looks like a fish or whatever with the popped out eyes. That's from She-Ra too.
That's
Mantis,
a She-Ra villain.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's all those things.
Oh, no,
Shadow.
Okay, the guy with the red with the eyes popping out, that's Mantenna. It's Grizzlor and Leech.
There you go. That makes sense because he like fucking drains that thing. Let me ask you guys this, Mike. I know you had a point. We'll get to that in one sec. But the fucking thing that they kill on Hordak's ship, is that a fucking Rock Lord?
Oh no, it's not. That's Stondar. And also, Stondar was voiced by Cam Clark, who was He-Man in the 2002 series.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
What the fuck's a Stondar?
There were these rock people that like. It definitely has a lot of similarities with Rock Lords, but Rock Lords was a GoBot spinoff, so it's not. They're not the same thing.
Man, when we get some fucking panties moist with this conversation, Rock Lords was a GoBot spinoff. Like, oh yeah, take me home, big boy. Mike, I cut you off. What were you gonna say before?
I was gonna say, interestingly, with the She-Ra villains with the Horde. You don't have Katra, who became a big character in the She-Ra Princesses of Power, and you don't have Shadow Weaver, unless Motherboard is supposed to be like a Shadow Weaver. But they do something in this series where they go, Skeletor is all magic and Hordak is all technology, but that's not true for all of She-Ra lore, because Shadow Weaver is magic.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the stance on magic and technology in all the He-Man shows kind of changes, but in this one, it's definitely like they're butting heads against each other. And then Skeletor ultimately becomes, amalgamation of both, and He-Man becomes an amalgamation of both. I have this ticker, and this can be our last little point. It says Lynn's fate because we liked Evil Lynn so much, and I want to talk about like where she ends up at the end of the show. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk about how the Sword of Power essentially like absorbs magic, and then can like do things with technology. What did you guys think about that change to the Sword of Power and like how it's used ultimately?
I feel like that's a very common trope for a lot of shows that kind of when they go on and then they eventually advanced into technology and then they kind of merge those kind of things. So I felt it was kind of on par with how this was going. Maybe it was sort of a reference to New Adventures of He-Man, which I didn't really watch very much of, but that was a much more sci-fi oriented version of the show.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to change my tattoo.
Oh, shit. Yes. Yeah. Well, Mike, didn't you think that like the sword itself was kind of more like the sword in that computer animated He-Man?
Yes, because in that one, technology and magic are like the same thing. They're not sort of separated in that weird way. Yeah. That's just another theme that didn't have room to really breathe because I don't remember them doing that at all in season 1. And then in this season, there's this theme of magic and technology is this huge theme that's throughout the whole series, and it's like this wasn't always fundamental to what we were doing here.
No, I totally agree. It's sort of like they have these like concepts, like you can tell it's like writers getting together and being like, well, what are the main things about He-Man? What makes He-Man different from other shows? And I think that they were like, oh, well, it has both sorcery and technology.
Yeah.
How do we really play that up? And you've made this point about, I don't know, like 7 or 8 times today, but it's a really important point that like the show is just like too much in too short a time, because that first season does a really great job of separating the two, because magic's gone in the first season. So they have to use
yeah.
But speaking of magic being gone and stuff like that, Evelyn is on a quest to find it in the first season, and she has this sort of heroic turn after becoming the ultimate evil. In this, I was going to say, like, Brian, you've heard before that the Masters of the Universe movie was essentially like a New Gods movie, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So didn't you feel like that last scene in the end of this was almost like Metron from New Gods?
Yeah, like she's become like Adam Strange or something like that.
Right. Well, yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of like 3 DC things, right? Because they're all like the monitors from DC.
Yeah.
Then that character, what the fuck is the balance guy from Masters of the Universe? Zodak, right? He's kind of like Metron, where he's like in a chair and he's like observing shit. And then they're also kind of like the Green Lantern Corps, because they're like, join our Corps. Were you guys satisfied with Evelyn going in that direction?
Yeah, because I think we liked the performance so much that I wanted to see her have a redemption arc, and I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I kind of like it, and I hope they touch upon that if we do get any more of this in the future.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Please, yeah.
If this is the end of this series, which it very well might be, how would you like to see? Would you like to see this continuity continued in any way? And in what form do you think would be best if it couldn't be a TV show?
Comic book.
Yeah.
Really the only answer.
Yeah. Mike, if you ever get a chance, there's a guy named Tim Seeley, and he does a whole bunch of great comics. They had like Hack Slash. He has a comic called Local Man, which is like this play on like the 90s superheroes, but in the modern day. He has done a bunch of He-Man comics, and he's done some that are set in this universe too. Okay. It's kind of like a bridge from the first season to this season too.
Okay.
But Brian's totally right. What about you? What's your answer for that question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess comic. I wouldn't mind though if like, because I was thinking maybe this would have been better as a movie. Like, I wouldn't mind if Netflix were like, okay, Kevin Smith, like, we'll give you a movie every year, and you can just like, I think I'd be cool with that too.
Yeah. Where are we in terms of a live action He-Man movie? Is that being made, or?
It's been in development hell for over 30 years.
Right. Like since our childhood. Yeah.
He-Man and Thundercats is my new Black Adam, because Black Adam eventually got made. You know, like they were talking about Black Adam since 2006 or 7 or something like that. And that's about as long as we've been hearing about a He-Man live action and a Thundercats live action.
Yeah.
Yes.
Forever.
Yeah, and Brian, this is kind of a personal question. That, like, did Thundercats come out this week or is it next week? The comic.
Next week. It's next Wednesday.
Okay, good. I thought I forgot it. Okay. No, I just like this show hit all the right beats for me, and there actually was one part where I legitimately started crying. It's so funny. I crammed this in. We're talking about them cramming all this shit in for this show. I crammed this in because I knew I was going to be recording with you guys today. So I was literally like taking my walk in the morning, like looking at my phone, watching the show. And there's that one part where like Teela's about to fall because she's like overwhelmed with the magic. And then Adam just says like, I've got her, or I'll catch her. And he like jumps up these rocks to go get her. And the way they did the music and the way he says it, I like almost started crying like on my walk. Like, oh, this cartoon about toys is so good. Like I just kept picturing like, because Kevin Smith, he cries at the drop of a hat, Kevin Smith.
He does.
And so I was just thinking, I was like, oh, Kevin Smith cried right there. He cried right there. Right. He always makes a big deal about his own father dying. And I was like, oh, man, he's fucking just crying.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know? Yeah. Well, do you all have anything else you want to say about Masters of the Universe Revolution?
I just wanted to confirm that Beastman did sort of die in the first one.
Okay.
He got thrown off a cliff into like an abyss, and he was just kind of like an implied death. So that's probably why he's not here. Oh,
that's too bad. He was so awesome in that first season.
He was, yeah.
Well, I guess it was heroic though the way he died, or no, maybe not. Did he turn evil too? Right?
I think
he encourages Evelyn to.
Yeah, Evelyn changes him, I think, to be more and more like monstrous. And I think that's how he dies like fending off He-Man.
Okay. Yeah, or I think he's fighting Battle Cat.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's Evelyn that makes him more. I think he's like redeemed, and he's like her side, like he's there for her, supporting her. And I think when Skeletor comes back into power, he turns him into a creature.
Maybe. Yeah, something like that.
I gotta rewatch it, I guess.
Yes, Mike. That's kind of a thing that me and Brian realize is kind of our brand. Is like middle-aged men forgetting the details to cartoons and just spending time being like, "What happened there? What was his name?" That seems to be our brand. So,
yeah, that's okay.
We had to get that in. Yeah, we had to get that in there for our 200th episode. Which
congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. All of our 20 people that watch, they've been with us for so long. But Mike, I think more than 20 people watch or listen to your show, Pop Culture Man Children. You want to give a breakdown for anyone who's new to you?
Sure. Pop Culture Man Children, which we call PCMC on the streets, is a podcast that's available anywhere podcasts are found. And the reason why it's not very popular is because we're not specific enough. We do comics, movies, video games, art films, everything. I mean, I've had episodes about Dear God, It's Me, Margaret, fucking Judy Bloom. We've had episodes on He-Man. I've got an episode coming up on the Japanese ramen film Tampopo. We've got episodes on Scream and Star Wars. Just all of pop culture fandom is encompassed in our we do everything, and therefore we are for nobody.
I totally can relate. I think that like Brian and I like so much stuff that like that makes us not connect as much, because it's like we're not overly critical, and it feels like that's the main thing that gets views.
Oh, right. If you pick one thing to talk about and just be really negative about it, and then you'll really succeed on YouTube.
Yes. So anyway, with that being said, Brian, do we have anything in the pipeline coming up for us?
We just gotta finish the DC Tomorrowverse stuff for now, and I guess Madam Web.
Yeah. Have fun with that.
Yeah. It's funny because she was on Saturday Night Live last night, Dakota Johnson, and there's some really good skits from that episode last night. But the Madam Web trailer came on while I was watching it with my wife, and I was like almost ashamed. It was like, revealing that I had a 2-inch penis or something like this. This is it's bigger than that, guys. Just for 200th episode, but no, like, I was like, oh, but my wife said to me, she's like, you have to go watch that because this is part of your obsession that you have. And I just kind of like held my head in shame. I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah, anyway, I'm just gonna go to that by myself. I'm not even gonna ask anybody to suffer through it with me.
No, right. Yeah, exactly, suffering through. But Brian, you and I can suffer talking about that.
Yeah, and honestly, we probably should do Morbius finally too.
Oh God, what are you trying to do, man? Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's the fun part of Comic Books Transformed. But I had a real blast talking about this with y'all. Let's all have another 200 episodes and some more He-Man. We'll see you guys